Alrighty, boys. We're back to me speaking over the AI. We've just got to refine it a little bit. Danny, who is our AI man, is not quite stoked with how TMac AI works. So it's back to the real AI to talk to you about your balls, boys. Bear Nuts is our sponsor, long-term sponsor. They've been really great to us. 10% off at the checkout. As you can see on the screen for those who are on the YouTube, they are the number one removal cream with their cream Bear Nuts. You can get the sugar nuts. I've still got the wood sitting with me, so I've always got it around. Coming into the warmer months that we're swinging back around to when footy season starts, make sure that you are all prim and proper, good to go. Bear Nuts is essential grooming for men.
Brown 45! Brown 45! Hot, 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 hot!
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, NFL Australia head office, American football Australia head office. Wade, he always loves us, gets around us. We're here for episode 5 of our weekly preview. Joining us, as always, back in his basement by the looks of it. I haven't quite confirmed. At Tim Cardy, AGSAU, TC24. How are you, mate?
Hey, Macco. What's going on?
And down in his usual digs, at Danny Webb, AGSAU. Danny boy, how are you, mate?
Great. Now pre-season's back.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You are all over it. Pre-season is back. The games, I got to watch a couple on our Game Pass during the week, but also Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks down in Chicago is back. It started this week. Make sure you hit up Game Pass. Go to our link. You go Linktree. You can go to any of our socials. Use our Game Pass code. That'll get you the zone. You can watch all your Game Pass and you are primed for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks of preseason games. Hard Knocks. Cross them all. There's some great stuff on there. Getting on to our 5th week of our previews. We've got the NFC North. I'm rocking the Packers shirt. I've got the Packers hat. Danny Boy's a bit worried that I'm going to be too nuffy, but that's what I'm here for. That's what you pay me for, Timmy, so that's what I'm doing. We're going to get straight into it. Last season, the biggest news coming out of the North was the Lions going 12-5 and winning their first division since 1993. So huge for them, getting back, winning the division. The Packers not far behind them with 9-8. Jordan Love having an outstanding first season. The Vikings 7-10 and the Bears 7-10. They had their problems and their reasons for being 7-10 in the playoffs. So we did get 2 teams. The Rams beating the Lions the Lions beating the Rams week 1. We've already spoken about that one as well. The Packers getting a surprise upset over the Cowboys, the number 1 Cowboys. First time ever, I think, a number 7 has beaten, a number 2 Cowboys. Onto the divisional round, we've spoken about the 49ers getting the job done over the Packers and the Lions getting the job done over the Bucks. And then the championship game, NFC championship. The Lions, who were up 24-7 at halftime over the 49ers, Danny Boy. They end up losing. But like you said, it's their first division crown since 1993. Huge for them as an organisation, and MCDC making some huge changes around the Lions in the last few years.
Yeah, it was obviously great to see him back, and if anyone's watched Receiver, you can see how pumped that whole Lions team was, to get to that point, and they thought they had won that game as well, that championship game. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done in that second half at all, and the 49ers just ran away with it and took it off them and went to the Super Bowl.
They did. It was huge for the Lions, and Carts, MCDC's been known for, and there was a big part of that game. It was a 4th and 3 they went for late in the game. They went for the most 4th downs and converted the most 4th downs throughout the season. Do you see MCDC changing it up a little bit? They missed that 4th down. They went on to lose the game. Or do you see them, sticking to their guns?
No, I don't think so. I think he's a big culture guy, and a big part of that culture is being consistent and being true to yourself. I think that's a lot of the message that he preaches, and that obviously reflects in his game play calling in games. And yeah, I see him, same situation, they're going to go for it again. And like you said, they ended up getting the most 4th downs last year out of any team. And that's it. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I don't see him changing. And that's how you win the locker room too. Like you're consistent with your messaging, consistent with the play calling and all that sort of stuff. And that you win the locker room, and you can see that he has got the locker room, and he's a massive culture guy. And we're going to touch on something when we get into the news section about that culture. But I don't see him changing that play calling style.
Exactly right, Cardi. The players love it. The players love it, and the players fully got around it. And every single player on that field wanted to go for that fourth down. So it can't just fall back on Dan Campbell for that one at all. Like he's 100% created that culture, and it's a good culture to have, I think, because everyone's behind him, supports him, and they're not questioning his decisions. They're supporting him and want to run with it.
Yeah, and if he doesn't go for it, exactly right. The players, do they start to second guess? They're like, oh, does he not believe in our system? Like, does he not trust our system? And then the cracks start appearing. So I love that he went for it, and I love that he will continue to go for it.
Yeah, there's zero doubt about it. He's 100%. He loves it.
Yeah.
So he'll be definitely going for it. Some of the stories from this off-season, the biggest one, I think, well, besides actually there was some news that just come out recently, but pre to that little news, which will be our second story, Caleb Williams going number one. Danny boy, he looked really good from all reports. I didn't see I'd see some highlights, but I haven't seen most of the game. They got the win, I know that much. But Caleb Williams looked pretty good. They've gone and put some weapons around him. They've got Keenan Allen, which I think is an absolutely huge pickup at wide receiver. And your boy Swift, Danny, he's gone in at running back. But can you see him having the kind of season that CJ Stroud had last year and following in his footsteps?
The great part about picking up Swift, and I'm glad you brought that up, the great part about picking up Swift is like in the games when, let's say some of the Eagles wide receivers last year weren't getting open, Swift literally single-handedly saved the Eagles season. If it wasn't for him being there, we would not have been anywhere near what we were. So it's such a good pickup, especially to go to a team with a rookie quarterback. So if he is having an off game for whatever reason, you've got Swift there as your little backup as well. Plus, they'll be running plays as it is. But it's just such a good pickup for him. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like they've got some weapons now surrounding him. I think the Bears have really turned it around from where they were 2 seasons ago when they finished, was it below 4 wins or something like that? It might have been a 4-win season. They picked it up this year to then go to a 7-win season. But lucky for them, when they did that trade with the Panthers still sucked. So then they still got the number 1 pick to be able to pick up Caleb Williams. So it's all kind of falling Chicago's way. And there is points and argument's sake, especially in this division, that they could be pushing for a playoff run right from the get-go.
Yeah. I've still got my Packers hat on, so it's a bit hard for me to see that. But yeah, no, you're right. And Carts, getting the likes of Keenan Allen, who's, I think, just short of setting all of the records over in LA at wide receiver, it's got to give him all the confidence going forward.
Yeah, and it's not just that, like Danny Boy said. Adding Swift, they got Cole Kmet, who's proven himself at the tight end spot, DJ Moore. So it's those other weapons that will also complement Keenan, but then putting those weapons in place to help Caleb in his rookie season, which we saw at the Texans. You got to give them all the tools that they need to thrive. It's so hard. How many times do we see first-round picks at quarterback not necessarily meet the hype or, not necessarily have those breakout seasons? It's quite rare to do what CJ did. Obviously, a lot of pressure coming in on Caleb. Massive, big market too. The Chicago market itself, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. So there's lots and lots of things creating that pressure sort of cooker for Caleb. But it's good to see the organization at least putting the tools in place to help him have his best rookie season that he can have. And it is hard to take preseason form into the actual season, but early signs are good and positive. So yeah, good stuff. And they use, looking at their depth chart, I honestly don't really recognize their second, third, fourth stringers at quarterback. So they are all in on Caleb too. So we've got to be honest about that. They're definitely all in on him. So if he doesn't work out, it could be trouble up at the Bears, but they're giving him every opportunity, which is good to see.
Well, it was clear that they were going to be all in on him as well when they did trade with the Panthers, 2 seasons ago. They were like, it's a better quarterback class coming up the year after. So it was like, we'll take ours then. Have one more year with Justin Fields, which, we haven't spoken about yet, but now he's gone on to the Steelers. But yeah, so they'd already doubled down essentially 2 years ago that this quarterback class at least was going to be the one that's going to help them get out of their little rut that they're in.
I think they've already signed and committed to him as well with a larger than a first round contract. So they've definitely gone all in on him. We can't forget Rome Odunze as well, coming in at wide receiver. First year, he's going to be big for them and huge on the outside. So, I'm not, and you'll see by my predictions, I'm not, like, I think CJ Stroud was the outlier. And how extremely good he was. I don't quite see Caleb Williams following those footsteps, but definitely they've set themselves up well for the future. And maybe not this year, but the next few years, I think he's going to go quite well for him. Unfortunately for me, this story which I saw this morning, I didn't catch it on the weekend, but Danny, I think huge for the division and for the Minnesota Vikings themselves, that JJ McCarthy is actually has to undergo some surgery on his knee. Karch, you could probably actually talk to it better than any of us. Does this currently make him a knee bruzzy with a torn meniscus?
Not a full-blown knee bruzzy, because it can, depending on the extent of the injury, recovery time can range from maybe 4 to 6 weeks to then maybe a couple of months. It depends on the extent of the tear. So I'm not giving him full bruzzy status. We'll let him sit out on the porch maybe.
Sitting on the porch. From what I did read, it looks like it's about 6 weeks. So missing, the first month of football, really not ideal as a rookie QB. And so they're going to have Sam Darnold coming in as most likely to be starting QB, because Cass, I think you said, was it Nick Mullins in at number 3, and I'm not quite sure. He's been a perennial backup for quite a few teams now, so I think they're going to go with Sam Darnold. And
it's definitely Sam's job now that JJ is going to have to go under the knife for sure.
And how does that affect him going early, you reckon, Cass?
They've still got JJ, obviously Justin Jefferson, and they've bought in Aaron Jones from your cheeseheads. So look, they've still got a couple of weapons there. Like they were thereabouts last year. They just couldn't get over the hump like they were 2 seasons ago in those games where Kirk was sort of like rally the troops and like JJ would go for ridiculous numbers. So they didn't quite win those close games last year. They're actually tipped, I think, to come last in the division. So yeah, losing your first choice quarterback, definitely not going to help the situation. I wouldn't have thought.
No, yeah,
I'm sure you're pretty cut up about it.
I'm devastated.
Especially like JJ McCarthy, they picked him up pick 10. He went with the Wolverines and won the national championship game when he was in college. It was a good pickup for him, especially seeing Kirk Cousins had left. And yeah, the only hope is at least when they play the Packers, Aaron Jones is just going to spread all the secrets and just give him the playbook.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately too, TJ Hawkinson looks like he's out with a bit of a knee niggle as well. Could miss anywhere from 1 to 7 weeks. So not great early signs for the Vikings, unfortunately, as Macca wipes away at another tier.
Yeah, I know. It's really breaking my heart, especially, like you said, Jefferson spending a fair portion of last year on IR. He'll be coming back with a vengeance, but I don't know who he's going to be having throwing the ball to him. So I'm not really worried about that at this point in the time, but you never know. They might get in a bit of a run late in the season and finish 1 or 2 games with a win. See what happens.
You give him 1 or 2.
JJ did ink the biggest wide receiver contract of all time in this offseason. So, despite who he's throwing in the ball, I'm pretty sure he's still going to be able to catch it. Hopefully.
Yeah. I'm not getting into it. The Lions, big chance of running it back. They've gone out. They've only gotten better in the off season. They've extended Goff. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown was late last year. I think he signed as well. So huge chance, Danny Boy, of them going back to back for the first time, I'm imagining, ever.
Yeah, we probably should fact check you on that one because who actually knows? But yeah, they brought back both their offensive and defensive coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. They were both in high demand during this, hiring cycle for other people. People trying to ping them for head coaches, and they both declined to stay there. Still there with Dan Campbell. extended Goff. So now he's got, I think, 4 years, 134 million deal. The only big issue really is coming out of this preseason is Jamar Gibbs has pulled up with a hamstring injury in that preseason match. So hopefully he comes good nice and early on. But they've kind of kept their core. They've kept their coaching staff. They've got to keep their consistency, and that's what we were talking about earlier on. As long as they do keep that consistency, it's going to be hard to not see them. They've got the motivation now. They had the taste of success. They had the taste of going to the playoffs. They had the taste of winning the championship game. But it all fell down in the last few plays in the last drive. So I think they're going to be hungry and want more, which is good. I love to see the Lions doing well for one, but being the underdog still, and really trying to. I feel like that's when they're going to perform at their best.
Yeah, I don't think they're the underdogs. They're definitely, it's theirs to lose. They're probably, outside looking in, they're the best team in this division. So, but being the hunted is a lot different than being the hunter, which they have been cast to get that look off your face. In the last few years, they've definitely been the hunter, and you've seen it from, I think this will be his 4th year MCDC, and they've just gotten better year after year after year. From those comments about, when you knock us down, we'll bite off your knees.
Yeah. He copped a lot of flack for that.
Yeah, but it's true, and that's you brought up culture before, and the culture, watching receivers and seeing St. Brown on the receivers show, they genuinely love the man, I think, and so he's really built this team from, looking at the stats that we had before, they've only won 4 divisional titles where, the Packers are up at 17, 18, and I think the Vikings are the most with 21, 22, which is a little bit of a surprise. But, in the last 20 years, 30 years, they've genuinely been the basket case of this division. But at the moment, it's 100% theirs to lose, I think.
Yeah, and dudes and we don't talk about the defensive side of the ball much, but Aiden Hutchinson, massive locker room guy, and he is such a good, if MCDC is the general, he's a great little soldier that he gets in there and he revs the troops up, and he buys into MCDC's the MCDC way, I guess. Just as much as anyone, and he's a massive game wrecker and a tone setter on the defensive side of the ball, Aiden Hutchinson. So can't sort of overlook how important that defensive side is, and guys like Aiden Hutchinson in the locker room for the Detroit Lions. And like you said, that loss in the NFC Championship game is only going to make them hungrier. They want it pretty bad.
I'm spewing we couldn't actually hear that properly over the mic, Stanny. Yeah, and Hutchinson's, he's a Michigan man as well, so he's Detroit through and through, and it's definitely big things coming for the Lions this year. Only really them can beat themselves, I think. The hardest thing is this year they finished on top, so they're going to have a harder strength of schedule than they have in the past few years as well. So, but you'll see in a minute, I see them going quite well. Anyway, last one that we have to talk about is my Packers. And I know you two boys aren't huge on it, but the fact that he's been paid $55 million a year, max $220 million, and 160 of it guaranteed, which is the way the contracts are going. Whoever gets signed next year, it's going to get bigger. Brock Purdy's probably going to throw that, and that's 160. You'll be laughing at it, kind of stuff. Do you boys? I can't answer this honestly because I'm a nuffy and I love him, but is he worth it? Is it something that the boys at Green Bay have gone too early on? What are your thoughts?
Well, obviously,
either of you can jump in. Go on.
Well, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers leaving, he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years, and then him leaving and going to the Jets left a big hole, and it was a big unanswered question. No one really knew how Love was going to perform when all he had played was half a game the year prior, and then he's come out this year and actually got him to the playoffs, but not only got him to the playoffs and got him a win. And then even then, let's just fast forward to this season. He actually suited up and played in this first preseason game. He took 2 or 3 snaps, had 2 from 2 completions, 63 yards and a touchdown. I know he's playing probably against the second side defense as they're trying to all fly on their feet during it, but he has shown signs of greatness. Block your ears, TMac, because I don't want to make your head any bigger than it is. But he has shown he has shown signs of greatness. So as long as he can continue on the right trajectory, maybe he's worth it. But I think it's early. personally. I think you should have maybe waited one more year before doing this extension, but I don't know where his contract was actually at. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that is going to be guarantees, especially if he does fall off this year. Because last year he had so much to prove because he's like, you know what? I sat for 3 years. It's my time. I'm going to prove it. And took him to the playoffs. Good. Next year, you're going to have to back it up, though. And then if you don't back it up, well, you got $106 million in guarantees, so it doesn't really matter. So it's just going to be interesting. This season's like do or die for him for me, for this contract to make sense.
We only signed him to 1 year. We gave him $20 million last year, so we had to do something. He was actually sitting out the start of training camp until he got paid. So he was due a contract, just so you do know.
And it does feel like that. You had to do something. So, and you see teams that kind of get themselves into a bit of a quarterback scramble, and you don't want to be left at the dance without a partner kind of thing. So there is an element of that to it. I don't probably agree that he should be the highest paid quarterback. I definitely agree he should have got a contract and a healthy one off the back of what he did last year. Like thinking back last year, like there's only that one blemish. It was against the 49ers. It's the main one that stands out. Like it was that real brain fade. It was like the last play of the game. It would have been like you guys were going for the win. You're down by 3. You had the chance to win. You had the ball. And I can't remember the play exactly, but like he just threw it away. And I think it was an interception in the end. But that was like that one blemish that stands out. So to his credit, he had a great year. Took you guys to the playoffs. Got a win. I just don't think he should be the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah, fair enough. I do. He did have I wouldn't say great just yet because his first half of the year. I know I watched every Packers game. His first half of the year, you know, he had those rookie fumbles. There was a game against, I want to say the Saints, or you know, he went for a quarterback sneak and left the ball behind. So he still had a lot of those rookie mistakes early. But the second half of the year, I think he was number 2 or number 1 rated QB, you know, ahead of Patrick Mahomes. So huge things in the second half of the year. So if we can recreate that, mate, pay him all the money in the world. I don't give a shit. But
well, the thing too, you've got the weapons. Like you've got a lot of weapons.
Thing, I think, even with this contract,
you bought in Josh Jacobs from the Raiders, your dirty dogs, to go with the twin running backs, AJ Dillon and Jacobs. Like they're going to be an absolute handful to deal with. Watson, Dobbs, and the like at wide receiver. Like you're actually getting a pretty good roster together. So, I mean, there should be high expectations for you, really.
Well, we're also the youngest roster. Youngest roster across the league. So I think there will be. There's more expectation this year. You're right. But yeah.
But how many times have we seen it when the young roster comes along and because they are young, they've got that college mentality, all they care about each other, they become the big brotherhood, and they go on and they start just dominating teams because they get on a run, they get each other revved up. And I think having a young roster is good. Obviously, sometimes you need your veterans to kind of help guide you and settle things down when things aren't going well. But when things are going well with a young roster, sometimes they can be unstoppable.
Like you said, they don't know what they don't know when they're that young. So they don't know all the losses that we've gone through. But we did finish second in the division, which leads straight into the strength of schedule for next year. Carts, your little baby, your little forecast wins total segment. So all yours, mate.
Yeah, we've got the Vikings. They've got the 5th hardest, and with a week 6 bye, which if you know me by now, I think that makes things even harder.
Yuck.
I don't like the early bye. So 5th hardest overall. The Lions, as you said, coming in off the success of last year, their schedule will be a lot harder comparatively to their own. They've got the 12th hardest overall. Week 5 bye. That hurts. That's way too early.
That is. It's pretty much a pre-season bye.
Packers have got the 14th hardest schedule and then a week 10 bye. So kind of moving into a little bit closer to that sweet spot. And then the Bears, sort of as you'd expect, they've got the 3rd easiest schedule and a week 7 bye. So not overly friendly with the buys for the NFC North, unfortunately, if you subscribe to my sort of way of thinking about the buy.
Yeah, when I saw this and I saw the week 10, I thought, geez, we've actually we've done pretty well looking at our division, especially week 5 for the Lions. That is way too early.
It's wild.
I can't believe they're even having buys in week 5.
I know.
Is that maybe around London time?
Stand by.
Could be something to do with it. I do think they are going over to there maybe this year, so that could have something to do with it. But that seems way too early for me. I did pick the the NFC North, which I said very early on in our team meetings about this. I don't think.
Yeah, sorry, just buddy, it is around the London games, so yeah, that makes sense.
It makes a little bit more sense, but even
still,
yeah, I would have preferred it afterwards than before. But anyway, I did pick the schedules again, so be prepared. We're going to start off with the fifth hardest ranking team, the Vikings. Going through their schedule, I reckon they have an extremely hard. Makes sense now that they've got the fifth hardest. Extremely hard start to the season. I reckon I had them like 0-5, 0-6 or something like that. They had a real tough start. And again, those 50-50 games always seem to be away, so you kind of lean on the home team. And just hearing news, especially of JJ McCarthy going down and Darnold stepping in, I think they're going to have a pretty rough season. Going backwards from last year, being 5-12, Danny boy, I'm not quite sure that they go any further. They did have Kirk Cousins last year, who started off red hot, so he got them a lot of early wins. Their back end of the season was horrible. JJ was out for a fair portion of it, so 5-12 for me, Danny boy, this year.
5-12 is rough, but with the fifth hardest schedule, like you're saying, and not really having, a direction of whether they're going to go with their QB. If like you're saying, JJ McCarthy, sorry, I've got to be clear with this. The JJ McCarthy is only 6 weeks off actually playing. Like, that's not too bad. He'd probably be back by week 3. But then you're a rookie and you haven't had that preseason, which you probably need. And you haven't had your first 3 games to make all your first 3 game mistakes as a rookie, which is going to happen. That's just going to prolong that. So the fact that you got him at 5-12, I still think slightly rough, but yeah, probably heading in the right direction.
They potentially might not see McCarthy until after the bye, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, that's huge. And what would their unders-overs be, Danny? Have I been too harsh at 5-12?
Yeah, 100% you've been too harsh at 5-12. The unders is the favourable odd, and it's at 7.5.
Okay, so then they kind of agree with me then.
Yeah,
only one game off.
Yeah, but sure.
I do think if you could bet on it, they're definitely going to be the lowest in this division.
Yeah, and just to touch on week 5 for the Vikings, they're the team that's playing in London.
Yeah.
In week
5. An interesting game, which I think I gave them the win. Week 14 is Kirk Cousins' return to the Vikings. So game to look out for, and I think I actually gave them the win against Atlanta that day.
Juicy, I like it. I like giving them the win there because Vikings fans aren't going to be happy. It's going to be a big game that they need.
That'll be a big game. That'll be a huge one. Huge game to preview, I reckon. Especially if they've had a bit of a rough start, and depending how they're going over in Atlanta, huge game. The third place team, you might find this one a little bit surprising. I've got the Bears coming in at 6-11. A little bit harsh on them, but like I said, so my reasonings are I don't think he's quite as good as CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was definitely the outlier. He's going to go to places that we haven't seen for a while, I don't think. Or I do think. So I don't quite see them coming out and being as dominant as the Houston Texans did. And again, a lot of their 50-50 games, they were the away team. So I do think the Lions go 2-0 against them as well, even at the home. And I reckon the Packers beat them at home as well. So I think, it's going to be a harder season than what a lot of people are going to give them cards. But 6-11, is that being a little bit too harsh?
No, I don't think so. It's easy to buy into the hype machine. Number 1 draft pick, got a couple of weapons there. It's easy to get caught up in that, doing okay in the preseason games. I think you're probably thereabouts, maybe a 7-10 sort of season. But yeah, I don't. And someone has to come third. Like it's a bit of a tricky division to pick. But yeah, someone's got to come third. I think you're right. Vikings definitely last, and then unfortunately, I see the Cheeseheads going 1 or 2. So that means Chicago 3.
Yeah, Danny boy, what do the odds boys say against it?
You boys both need to smash the unders on this because they have Sportsbet and the World have got them at over 8.5 as a more favourable odd. Under 8.5, they're paying $2.20 for under 8.5. If you're going to get that
hype machine.
Everyone's on board for this hype. They've seen him come out in preseason. They reckon he is going to be the next CJ Stroud and just come out and dominate right from the get-go.
I think the biggest statement to come out of this episode was Cardi saying it is easy to buy into preseason hype. Seeing him play very well, it could have been against the second, third, fourth stringers for all we know. I'm just going to hold my tongue against how they go against, especially early.
Yeah.
I think you were right. We shouldn't have let you pick, but we're here now. We've got to carry on.
Yeah, we're here now. So coming in second is my boys, the 14th hardest. Again, I think we had a very favourable...
That just shows he's impartial, folks. That's
it. I've given the Lions the W. Wait until you hear what I've picked them at, though. I think in our first 7 weeks, our hardest game was the Eagles. I think it's away. I think it's officially the Eagles' home game down in Brazil. So adding in that little bit of travel makes it a little bit different. But I reckon we went off pretty well early on. So it kind of sets you up for a good back end of the season. You can drop a couple of games here and there and still be right up there. So I had us at 12-5 off the back of that really good start, Danny.
12-5 is huge, man. That's just some of the games that you're saying that you're picking that you're going to win. You're going to win 2. I reckon they're going to be harder than what you think, especially these interdivisional games. I think that it's going to be slightly more competitive than what you're giving credit for. You got a tough-ish schedule, looking ahead, the 14th hardest, the week 10 bye is the only thing that's in your favour, but the bookies actually have you at over-under 9.5 with over being the more favourable. So they're looking at around that 11 mark. So you're pretty bang on with the money.
So although I've got the hat on, I'm still pretty close, I think. That's almost a win for me.
Well, we can see you loading up on those overs, that's for sure.
Yeah, 9.5. That's an interesting one, yeah. But 14th hardest, it is mid-pack, so I'm pretty happy with the 11-win season. Well, we had, 9 and 8, and we made the playoffs last year, so I'll take 11
and you will improve on last year, so I'll give you that. You are going to improve on last year. I can see you definitely getting into 10-win season, for sure.
And coming in at number 1 is the Lions. Like I said, I think they are the team to beat this year. It's their division to lose. Got them going 13-4. A couple of tough games against, San Fran late in the season. There's a couple more that have just escaped me. But I think I had, off the top of my head, I reckon they were nearly 8-0 or something like that at the start. They went off a real hot start. So, again, just setting themselves up for a big back end of the season. Carts?
I tend to agree. And we touched on earlier, they haven't tweaked their list too much. Essentially, they're kind of running it back, even with the offensive and defensive coordinator. To me, that reeks of everyone buys in, everyone believes they're, this far away from winning that NFC championship game and then ultimately getting to the Super Bowl. I tend to agree. I don't know. Did you say what you
12-5. 13-4.
13-4. Yeah, I don't mind that. Again, like we said, touched on harder schedule, but keeping the group together another year, it only bodes better. The only thing that we didn't love was that early bye. But MCDC will find a way.
So they're not going to London? Is that what we said?
I don't know.
I've got the international games up here, and they are not. It's the Bears and the Vikings from this division. So the Bears Vikings are week 5 and Bears are week 6.
So a week 5 bye really stinks for them then. It's getting worse. I thought they were travelling to London. I was going to say, maybe the travel, we'll see how they go with it. But if they're not travelling and they've got them that early of a bye, that really does suck. Does the week 5 bye come into your strength of schedule, Cards? Does that make it a little bit harder?
I'd say it would impact it, yeah.
Interesting. But
if I was doing it would.
Yeah, it is. This is your baby, so you can make it the 13th hardest. No, I do think these guys are the team to beat. And, Danny, I know you were all over the episodes of receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's up there, top 5 receiver in the league, I think. And he still managed to have a massive chip on his shoulder. Didn't get picked for
Pro Bowl
last year. And that you see in that show, that ate him up so hard. So even though he was a 1,500-yard receiver, he's coming out this year and he wants to absolutely tear this league apart.
Yeah, and he also put some ink to paper and he signed a deal. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he's getting paid now as well, which is what is as much as I say they're not, that's what they're all chasing for at the end of the day. But yeah, I can only see them improving. They're hungry. And, the bookies actually kind of agree that, they did actually get that close. They're the fourth favourite to not only make the Super Bowl, but to win it.
Yeah, probably fair enough.
They are
A little bit of value there, maybe.
Well, they were in the top 4 last year, so that does make sense. Carts, did you go through who we have in the conferences and inter-conference?
Yeah, so inter-conference in the NFC, we're playing the West. In the interconference, got the AFC South, and then the 17th game is made up from the AFC East.
Nice. All right, so we'll get on to who the bookies actually do think are going to win and see if you boys are going to jump on any of the juice. The Minnesota Vikings come in at $10. Does that tickle either of your boys' fancies?
No, thank you.
Nah, fair enough. The Chicago Bears, surprisingly, I reckon this is actually quite low. $4.20 coming in. If they can get on any kind of roll, maybe, but $4.20, is that tickling anyone?
It's too short. I'd see them around the 6s or something.
Yeah, I once again, it'll be interesting to see how much it would be for them to make the playoffs. Just as that little wild card spot. Like, let's say something goes wrong with Love and, you lose your quarterback, or, the Lions somehow implode. There's a chance. The loins somehow implode. They have that ability to, Stephen Bradbury their way into the playoffs, I think. If everything clicks and, Caleb Williams is as good as say the preseason hype actually is there and it's, valid, they would have a chance of making those playoffs.
This could be the AFC North where we get a 3-team in like last year.
Possibly.
My Green Bay Packers, Danny, I remember, as we were just getting on and talking, you were nearly throwing up on how short we were at $2.88.
Yeah, I hate that. That stings.
Too short?
Too short.
What would you put them at, mate? So you're obviously not getting on at $2.88. What would you have?
No way. I'd keep my money in my pocket. Thank you very much for that one. I'd say
$3.50 to $4. I might have a look at you, but that's way too short.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the Detroit Lions, like you said, they're fourth on the line for actually winning the Super Bowl. So coming in at $2.25. Is that possibly too juicy?
That's pretty decent because I reckon they're relatively to me they're as we've been saying this whole episode, they're the team to beat. So I'd probably be jumping on that.
$2.25, nice. Yeah, beautiful, boys. I can't believe we got through, and I reckon I've done pretty well. So we've got 3 divisions to go. We're only
very level-headed, mate. Well done.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Credit
3 weeks to go. 3 divisions left. Danny.
Just on this, the Chicago Bears to make the playoffs is only at $1.88 as a yes. That is wild. I'm not touching that. That is far too short.
No, thank you.
Maybe I'm right. Maybe I know more about this stuff than I think I do.
Maybe I am right. You're right. Maybe I am. So, nice. All right, boys. I think we've spoken about my Packers way too much. I love it. This is great. See you back here next week. We've only got 3 divisions to go. Football is nearly upon us. Make sure you do hit up Game Pass and enjoy the preseason games this weekend. See you all next week.